Hello and welcome. This is the big story on BDTV, your trusted platform for breaking down the key issues shaping our economy, industry, and nation. I'm Bethel Ulujabi, and as always, it's a pleasure to have you start your day with us. Today, we turn our focus on tourism business in Nigeria to discuss in detail the future of Nigeria's tourism market in 2025. According to Statista, the travel and tourism market in Nigeria is expected to experience a significant rise in revenue in the coming years. By 2025, the projected revenue is estimated to be $3.769 billion, and the market is expected to grow annually at the rate of 10.60%, resulting in a projected market volume of $5.639 billion by 2029. So we will look at the industry's future and the performance in 2024, understanding the markets and how the country can accelerate the growth of the industry. Well, to help us understand this very well, we are joined by our in-house analyst, Obina Emilike. Obina, it's wonderful to have you here with us.
Yeah.
How are you feeling today?
I'm cool. I'm very cool there. Very cool, yeah.
Thank you for joining us. So
Thanks
we'll
a
jump
lot.
right into it, right?
Yeah.
So I'll start with this. So Obina, can you give us an overview of the tourism sector and the tourism industry in Nigeria? Where do we stand today?
Okay, tourism all over the world is the lowest hanging fruit for economic development. And countries that are intentional about tourism invest and sustain investment in it because they know it is not like a short-term stuff. They are doing it long time because when the fruits start coming on, when they start reaping from it, it's a steady revenue. So in Nigeria, tourism used to be not actually, it was agric that said that was our mainstay, but while agric was our mainstay, there was also tourism. People were doing tourism, but just that because of oil, there wasn't a real kind of focus on tourism. You understand? So, but somehow along the line, we now discover that when the oil revenue started doing, the government was looking for other avenues to show up the revenue. They started looking at tourism, but it was a first start in the sense that the intentionality, the seriousness and sincerity they needed for investment in that sector wasn't there and wasn't sustained. If it was sustained by now, there won't be any talk about dollar this, dollar that, because what we'll be earning, foreign exchange that we'll be earning from tourism will have been enough to show up whatever gap we have in from the oil sector. Yeah.
So is tourism as lucrative as it should be in Nigeria? What's some of the untapped potentials you see?
Okay, tourism in Nigeria is, I would say, is very untapped. It's one sector in the economy that's untapped. Untapped in the sense that if you consider the potential from the north to the south, from the west to the east, we have over 700 and something local governments. We have so many tribes. Along those tribes and people are tourism. That you Yoruba, you are tourism on your own. That you're Igbo, you are tourism, you're Hausa, because you come up with different things. All those diversity are some of the things that make up tourism. Then you talk about the natural wonders, you talk about the culture of the people, you talk about the natural resources, all make up tourism. There are so much in the country, but they are untapped. They are very much untapped. So because of it, it's actually difficult to say, put the figure here or put the figure there, because again, we are also not good in data collection. So we can't even put a right figure on how much of this potential that are untapped and how much we are losing out of this potential. Lagos alone, if you consider the Lagos corridor, the Lagos shoreline, the Lagos coastal line, if you consider how much Lagos can make from that corridor, it will shock you. And that is what Cape Town, that length of what do you call it, the Alfred Victoria Fall in Cape Town, or gold mine in Durban. That's they make as much as maybe quadruple of whatever we're earning from that stretch. But whereas theirs is shorter. So because they are intentional about their tourism, they developed it, they made it livable for people, they made it attractive for people, they pumped so much investment in it, and they are reaping. And that was over the years. They were intentional about it.
So what is Nigeria doing wrong right now?
Yeah, I think the thing is about policy. For instance, Lagos, from the stretch of Ozumbambadiwe till as far as the Lagos toll gate, the toll gate in Lekki, they were supposed to be for tourism. There was once a minister or so that designated that area. It was designated as tourism area, but somehow we see establishments that are not tourism oriented springing up in all those areas. Everything by that lagoon, both sides of the lagoon, Victoria Island and the Koi, are supposed to be all tourism facilities. But somehow you see businesses springing up there that are not tourism oriented. So policies actually are the problem. Then again, if you want to encourage a tourism investor, you need to give incentives, because tourism is actually not easy. Because to invest, to get a beach running is not easy. You think it's all about the sand. It's not about the sand. There are so many things you need to get a beach running. To build a hotel is not easy. Most of the things they use are imported. So they need incentives that encourage them to come in. But when they are not getting those incentives, what do you want them to do? They will do with borrow money from the banks. And some, you know about AMCON and how many hotels that are under AMCON receivership, because you are not able to pay. So the thing about tourism is that a government needs to be intentional about developing tourism in Nigeria and also give them the necessary incentives, because it's not just all private sector. Government has to come in to make it work. But as far as potential is huge, as far as revenue is huge, and it's very much untapped. But the thing is that is there possibility of making money from it? Sure. But you need to invest, sustain the investment before you think about reaping. It's a long-term thing.
Now, I'll come to the government's involvement in this very soon. But let's look at the year 2020, the fiscal year 2024.
Yeah.
Right. How did the tourism sector perform in 2024? There are lots of things that happened in terms of policies, as you said. We saw you mentioned Landmark Beach, which was one of Nigeria's tourism attractions, artificial tourism attractions that got demolished, which created an uproar. And then we also can call it Dirty December, you know, that many brought in a lot of money for Nigeria. So how did tourism perform in 2024? And what are some of your projections for even this year?
Yeah, tourism last year did well. If you compare the previous year, you compare 2023 figure with compare it with 2024, you discover that tourism actually did well, in the sense that 2023 Nigerians were hard hit by the policies. It was when the policies of the present administrations kicked off. But somehow after a year, people are now are kind of getting used to whatever it is, and the investors and businesses are now adjusting. So with it, you see a whole lot of people coming out, going back to invest. It's like saying investors' confidence bounced back after the initial shock of the economic policies. So when it bounced back, some people, we saw the cranes going back at work. Some of the hotels, construction work at some hotels that were abandoned, people went back to work because they've discovered, okay, this is where the economy is going. They've now seen the direction of the government, so they started moving. So last year, I would say that Nigerian tourism, despite the economic hardship, did well. If you compare the figure with that of last, okay, then again, they were talking about Dirty December. Before you even get to Dirty December, Nigeria has two world tourism sites.
Yes.
So the first is in Soko in Adamawa. The second is Osun in Osun State. So what is expected is such, when you have such designation by UNESCO, it will attract people over the world to visit. So it increases visitation, and it also increases a kind of revenue and a kind of acclaim for the destination. So we now saw that Osun last year drew more visitations. There was a part of the Osun State government that went out there to encourage people to see. But again, the social media helped out. A lot of people were like, can you come and see what we have? It's not about negative about Nigeria. So Osun Osogbo drew people, but Suko, because of the challenging terrain there, we don't receive as much as Osun Osogbo, you understand? So somehow, it was there. Then again, the Nigerian mines, meeting and incentive industry also did well. We had so many meetings, we had so many activities across the year. One of them is the Akwaba African Travel Market that held in September, that attracted over 15 countries to Lagos. There were so many events by companies. There were so many things that happened. Then across the line, we had the Nigerian art season, which kickstarted in Lagos in late October to early November, with Artist Lagos, being the flagship event, it drew many people from outside the country to visit Lagos. Now finally we gradually got into 30 December, at which Nigeria made over 100 billion from over 1.5 billion people, 1.5 million people that visited. So for me, last year was actually good in the sense that Nigerians that are in diaspora and Nigerians at home now realize that, well, this is the direction of this government, so we cannot, let's say it in local parlance, we can't kill ourselves. So people now started, going down to also take care of themselves. But again, thanks to the weak Naira. The weak Naira enabled most Nigerian diasporas to visit. Because before, when Naira and dollar were like a power or something, so it is a little more expensive. But now, you can easily jump into the plane because it's cheap to visit. So that was why you saw a lot of them coming into the country. So it helped. So last year was a good one for us, but it also revealed some of the challenges and also opportunities in terms of infrastructure. You saw what happened at the airport. There were people, there were passengers, but no flights. So what that means is that it's open opportunity for people to invest more in the aviation industry. Then the hotels, they were all overbooked.
Yes.
So it means you need more hotel infrastructure. So if we need more people to visit, we also provide infrastructure, and that's also where the government comes in. Enable the private sector to do that. The bank interest rate is not encouraging anybody. There are multiple taxation. That's what the hospitality sector, hotels are complaining all about. So I think there's a good prospect for the country in terms of tourism, but we also need to encourage Nigerians to invest. For instance, Lakampine, Tropicana, the owner, Wanla Kimboboye, did one of the best events in Nigeria last year. He called it a pada. It lasted for almost 2 weeks. People from Nigerian diaspora, especially from Brazil, the American, Caribbean, they were all there. Some spent up to 2 weeks before leaving. So what the guy did was it's like a return. Come and see the country. Before they left the country in anger, but now you come joyfully to the country. They encourage people to come into the country. These are good initiatives, but we need government to support such so that we'll have more of it, so that more people can easily come to the country to spend, not coming to the country to take.
You mentioned policies, some of the government policies.
Yeah.
What are some of these policies? What level of I want to understand what level of attention the government is giving to tourism right now. What are some of these policies that are driving the sector? And what, in your opinion, what would you suggest, to even increase the revenue we've gotten from tourism in 2025?
Okay. Sadly, there's a story on one of the Nigerian dailies talking about encouraging the president or advising him to tax Nigerian diasporas the next time because of the 30 December, how much money that flew into the country because of the December. It hasn't even kick-started. The money is just coming and you're already telling government to tax. It's not about tax. Sometimes you put in before you tax. You invest before you reap. So if you want the kind of revenue that accrue to other destinations that develop their tourism to accrue to us, you have to be intentional like other countries, other destinations. Invest in it. Encourage investment in it. One, the ease of doing business. If people want to invest in tourism, can you have like a portal where everything they need is in one place? They just do it easily and kick off. Not when you have because one of the things that hoteliers complain these days is multiple taxation. The local government, the state, the federal, they all pay. So by the time they pay all this, it also affects. They have to, because they have to stay in business, stay afloat. So they have to push it to the guests. That's why you see high room rates. Of course, they say Nigeria is one of the expensive in terms of in West Africa that we do have the most expensive room rates in Africa. Especially in West Africa, you understand, because of the challenges and high cost of operation. So I think government can come in terms of policy by helping to encourage investors to have a one-stop shop where whatever it is they need, they can easily get it. Then again, bank interest rate is not helping. It's too high. Why would these guys get money to do this? So I think there should be a special vehicle where, like a tourism fund or something, where if people need to do some of all this, they can go there, get money a certain percentage, not as high as the commercial banks are giving, because nobody can do any investment without, because those we've seen a lot of properties out there, under AMCON. So we don't want that to continue. So many hotels are under construction. Over 15 hotels are abandoned. They're simply after the groundbreaking. If you're going towards the airport, at the Ikeja airport, by the right, there are many of them, even in Korea, there are many of them, just at the groundbreaking level, because there's no money to complete. So I think what government should do is come in with such policies that we have. But beyond government policies, like in East Africa, what they do in East Africa, instead of doing something like they do like co-sharing and co-investment. So instead of you going for a 50-room hotel, you can get like 3 other investors, you merge and get like 200 room or 100 room, you share your equity. And it's easier to raise funds than only a single person. You understand? So investors can also be wiser. It mustn't always be government, because as much as I'm blaming government, other things they should do on their own, they can as well do that. But I think having a special vehicle and having like a fund where these guys can easily go there, I think that will help us. That will help us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And considering the close link between Nigeria's tourism and hospitality, how is Nigeria performing in the hospitality industry? Are there any improvements that you see that needs to be made?
Okay. There's a thin line between hospitality, because they're the same.
Yes.
So in terms of hospitality, Nigerian hospitality industry is actually doing well. Like averagely last year.
So you mentioned hotels that are not in operation.
Averagely we had like about 70% occupancy, average occupancy, which is also good. Now, what is pushing that in is why we are having such, I would say, good performance or impressive performance in the sector is because of the fact that, after the shock of the economy, after the election, after every other thing, businesses are setting back, businesses are bouncing back, investors' confidence is returning. So people now can now say they are coming to Nigeria for this or for that. Events are beginning to, pick up. So the MICE industry is picking up. So that's why you see room rates, occupancy rates rising. But the challenge is high cost of running the hotels, especially power. But despite that, they are still staying afloat. So for them to stay afloat despite those challenges, give it to them. So the Nigerian hospitality industry is doing well. But just that we need certain level of investment in the hospitality sector. We have the least 5-star hotels in West Africa. We have the least 5-star hotels. As big as Nigeria is, you can count how many number of 5-star hotels we have. We need the investment in that level, in that scale. But it takes money to do that. So for me, why the unbranded hotels are all springing up, we need more of also those branded ones. And at the level of a 5-star level, because they're also assurance for employment for our people, also for skill development, and every other thing. Because the multiplier effect is there. Everybody can see it. So the sector did well last year, but it can do better if the complaints of the hoteliers are addressed. Multiple taxation, high cost of operation, and security, by His grace, security is now almost taken care of, because in certain areas you don't complain about security. Lagos is very safe. Abuja is also safe. Rivers, most part of the country are safe.
What determines safety? Because in as much as the hotels, because you mentioned the high cost of operating these hotels.
Yeah.
Now, even if this hotel, even the ones that are in operation, right? Let's talk about accessibility. How accessible are these? Not just the hotels. Now, let's talk about tourist sites, some of natural attractions. How accessible are they to people who have never been to Nigeria before? And also, there is this general idea of Nigeria being unsafe. How, regardless of what we know in the country, how is the government, or how are we able to convince people outside that Nigeria is actually safe? The environment is favorable to invest in. How can we drive this information out? Apart from we are among ourselves in Nigeria.
But it's all about what we do with our stories, how we want to tell our stories, or how we want to retell our stories. I've told you about being intentional. Countries that are intentional about developing their tourism don't go to the insecurity. What they do is they show people what they have. They show people the beauties of their country. For instance, in Hebrew, in South Africa, in Johannesburg, just a suburb of Johannesburg, they tend to talk about insecurity, one of the worst in Africa. But people go there. Why there's trouble in Israel? People still go there on pilgrimage. You've heard about people go to Mecca, they even prefer to die in Mecca. It's all about the narrative they are pushing about the country. there are worse countries or worse places in terms of insecurity in the world. People still go there. In America, people die every day. You have gunmen shooting, killing at nightclubs and other places. But still, the country is projecting itself positively. So it's left for us as Nigerians to also project our country positively. How? There are good things we talk about. If what about the Calabar Carnival? The 1 month that Calabar Carnival held, there was no incident. Can't you talk about it? The 2 weeks that art season in Lagos held, it was peaceful. There was no issue. Do you know last December, an artist, Enugu Stadium was sold out. An artist performed there. Do you know last Christmas, festive season, Easterners were home? Can't we talk about it? It's not about negative. If you talk more about negative of your country, people will see more of it. And if they see more of it, they won't come. So all these countries you see in the world where people go on pilgrimage, there are issues there, but people still go because the people keep projecting positive things about their country. So it's left for us to also project positive things about our country. But in as much as we want to project positive things about our country, it also behoves on the government to do little they can. You can't tell me 20 people died here, and another day tell me another 20 people died there, and nothing is done about it. Somehow, even if the traditional media is not going to push it out there, social media is going to feast on it. And people out there are going to hear about it. So we also need to do the little we can to project positivity about us, also to do the little we can to also curb the insecurity level. But for me, Nigeria is not as worse as people are painting it. It's not as bad as people are painting it, because people still do holiday in Nigeria and enjoy and are safe.
So you're saying it's a branding problem?
It's a branding problem. Because if you're talking about insecurity, do you ever think somebody will go to Afghanistan? Do you ever think people go to North Korea? Do you ever think people go to Iran? If we what is happening in Israel, do you think people will go? But people are still going there, and nothing happens to them. So when they're talking about insecurity, let me give you an instance. When there was Ebola, the whole world said it was Africa, but Ebola was just within was in Central Africa. So if there's insecurity, if there's a maybe like what is happening in the banditry in Northeast, it's Northeast the whole of Nigeria. Is there banditry in Lagos? No. If you say maybe the insurgents is in Maiduguri or Borno or not east, is it in Lagos? Do you understand? So the thing is it's for us. If things are happening there, what about talk about the positive that are happening here? Nigeria is not about negative. It's not about negativity. Can we talk about the positives that are happening? Let people come and see the positive, and buy the positive. An Australian visitor was, I don't know what, was a lynch or somewhere in one of those countries in the West, in Asia. Nobody heard about it. It was just a mention and it ended there. But if it's in Africa, if it's in Nigeria, everybody will carry it. Because what the people did there was try to give explanation to counter whatever, that will come. But in as much as we want to paint the country good, we also need to do things along that positive lines, so that if you are saying it, people also see it in that line.
Now, speaking of accessibility, we talked about you've kind of hinted at the issue of flights being delayed, some being fully booked, right? So how can Nigeria, it's become an issue, right? Because many people can't access flight tickets to come to Nigeria. Right, because of delays at airports and all of that. So what you suggest is done differently this year to ensure that issue is stymied?
Now, countries that are intentional about tourism, they go out there for it. Countries like South Africa, Kenya in Africa, they have their bureau of convention bureaus. The convention bureaus go all out to all parts of the world to canvass for events to be held in their country, because they have convention centers. When they go, they present their convention centers to you. We can hold this. They will give you the number of hotel rooms. They will give you a number of attractions, places you can go. So now they are going out there to attract those meetings to their country, because they know how much they're going to get from those meetings, because people who are coming in are going to spend. Now, in doing it, they also make sure they have functional airlines or access. Countries that don't even have airlines barter or kind of partner with other countries. If capacity is an issue in terms of flights in Nigeria, there are airlines who are willing to come into Nigeria. So what do they need to come in? Can you meet them at a point, or let it be like a win-win? More airlines want to fly into Nigeria because, one, we have the population, then we have the market. Let them come in. If they come in, I think this issue will be, off. I've been to South Africa severally. I discovered that British Airways fly local in South Africa. They fly locally in South Africa. You understand? So whatever it is we can do, I was also part of the trip to Virgin Atlantic to Madrid. They were trying to launch their little red. If Nigerians fly to London from London, if you are going to Manchester, or if you are going to any of all those places, you don't need to go to train or buy, but just go to the local and join a little red, and you are up there. You can, some of these airlines, partner them. Some will talk about local airlines, trying to protect local airlines. But when the local airlines don't have capacity, what do we do? Or then look for a way to see if you can get the local airlines to increase their capacity. You understand? Because whatever it is, that's what I'm talking. It's all about funding. Whatever it is, a government that is intentional about it will look for a way to sort it out. That I believe there's going to be a kind of a meeting point somewhere there. It's all about capacity, and capacity is all about who has ability to do that. If it's not our people, if it's not our local airlines, if it's foreign airlines that have it, can they partner with our local airlines to do that? All we want is, capacity. All we want is easy access to all these destinations in the country. That's it.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Obinna, for those insights. We look forward to discussing more of this later in the year. Hopefully, then we see results from all the policies that have been implemented by state governments. By the federal government. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned, everyone, as we wait to see updates on the future of tourism. That's all we can take, unfortunately, for today on this segment. And you are still watching Business Day Television. I am Bethel Lujobi. Don't go away.